E.T.
A unanimous decision for the Bronx Bull, Jake LaMotta, handing Sugar Ray Robinson his first loss as a professional.
Raging Bull. The Right Stuff. What do these films have in common? Either Roger or myself, or maybe both of us, think these are 3 of the top 10 films of the decade of the 1980s, our subject of this special edition of Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. The decade is not quite over yet, but Gene and I are fairly sure of our 10 best films of the 1980s. Maybe another great film will come out, but if it does, we'll redo the show. A movie magazine named Premiere asked us to make individual lists for a compilation that they're doing on the subject, and we thought, hey, that's a good idea. We'll also get a show out of it at the same time. We're going to start out by skipping around the top half of our lists and then report on the full list at the end of the program. And Gene starts with his number 5 choice.
And that film is Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It's on my list because it was wonderfully entertaining and because I suspect it will signal a revival of interest in animation. In fact, that revival is already taking place. This eye-popping film was refreshingly adult in its portrayal of the sparks between sultry Jessica Rabbit and Detective Bob Hoskins.
Why don't you do right like some other man do?
Just wonderful to see that again. All of my picks for the top 10 are well-made films that also push the boundaries of filmmaking. That's certainly true of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We hadn't seen animation like this before from a commercial studio, and the time and space-bending quality of the animation mixed with the live action is really a singular achievement by director Robert Zemeckis and animation director Richard Williams. Hoskin was the great human link. The whole picture was wonderful fun, images we hadn't seen before. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a true treasure in the history of movies.
It's not on my list of the 10 best movies of the 80s, but of course I liked it very much. And I like the idea that you suggested that the great films of a decade might also be the films that try to do something new, something different that hadn't been done before.
Right.
And certainly that three-dimensional quality of Roger Rabbit does that. But my next choice is a film that does something totally different that is also a little bit new. My movie, number 5 on my list of the decade's 10 best, is a movie that couldn't have been made in the silent movie era, that's for sure, because this movie is almost all talking. It's a strange, courageous, amazingly successful film called My Dinner with Andre, and almost the entire movie consists only of 2 friends sitting down to dinner and holding a compulsively fascinating conversation. The friends are Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn, and let's eavesdrop a little bit.
Of course, privately, people are very mixed up about themselves. They don't know what they should be doing with their lives. They're reading all these self-help books.
Oh, God, I mean, those books are just so touching because they show how desperately curious we all are to know how all the others of us are really getting on in life, even though by performing these roles all the time, we're just hiding the reality of ourselves from everybody else.
Both Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn find themselves in steady demand as character actors after this movie came out. It was directed by a French filmmaker, Louis Malle, and I think everyone connected with the project saw it as a labor of love. They were probably as surprised as anybody else when My Dinner with Andre turned into a substantial box office success.
Well, the thing that this film pushes, and by the way, it's number 4 on my top 10 list, so I'm as enthusiastic as you are, is language. And remember, we're coming out of, in the 80s, we came out of a decade in the 70s with a lot, at the end, particularly a lot of action material.
Images.
People talking to each other with car bumpers and explosions and everything. And here was a film that treasured the spoken word. And it had been a long time since we had it. So this is a very, very
important film. You know what it showed? It showed that films that you might think were too intellectual or too elevated are not at all, that people do have the ability and the curiosity to get interested in movies like this if only they're made, if only they're presented to them.
If there's one thing that we've talked about over the years in criticizing films is when we look on the screen and they're supposed to see real people and we see just talking machines that are saying goofball words that don't have any meaning, any relation to reality. Here was some real talk, heightened real talk that was absolutely thrilling. When we come back, more selections from the best films of the 1980s.